Within an hour, this dog will be dead, killed by those whose job it is to care for animals. He's just one of 1,000 stray dogs which it's claimed are sentenced to death each day. Across the south, animal charities are bursting at the seams with the rising number of strays. Tonight on Facing South, we ask why the killing goes on. Portsmouth Police, arriving at a local RSPCA centre with yet another statistic. Found abandoned on wasteland at Hilsey in Hampshire, this cross Labrador was left to fend for itself, scavenging among rubbish in the streets. The RSPCA estimates that 500,000 strays like this are roaming the streets of Britain. And it's not just a problem affecting the big cities. It's a crisis that's spread to the towns and countryside here in the south. There's increasing concern that uncontrolled dogs are a threat to the community's health and safety, and that unless action is taken soon, the problem will escalate out of hand. This is the last resort of many stray dogs, an RSPCA kennel, this one at Stubbington near Portsmouth. The number of stray dogs here has risen so fast, they're running out of space to house them.
They are coming into us at a rate that we just cannot cope with. This shelter here was built 18 months ago. It's one of the biggest in the area. For every animal that comes in here, we have 3 or 4 more waiting to come in after it. The police stations are constantly ringing us. We've almost 2 dogs in every kennel, and we just can't cope. It's as simple as that.
The shelter, run on donations and revenue from fundraising events, was built to take 110 dogs. It now has 140. Every effort is made to find suitable homes for all dogs that arrive here, but there can be no guarantees.
There is a decreasing number of good homes available, so at the end of the day, more and more animals will end up being put to sleep. That will turn this place not into an animal shelter rescuing animals, but quite simply into a destruction factory. And that is something that I don't want to see.
According to the RSPCA, the problems facing this kennel are all too common throughout the south of England. In tonight's programme, we look at how a nation of supposed animal lovers allows tens of thousands of healthy dogs to be killed each year. And we ask why a system cannot be devised which at least reduces the scale of the slaughter.
Foxtrot 3 to control. Come in, please.
In Portsmouth, the City Council has recognised the extent of the problem. Dog warden Bob Skillicorn is employed by the council and paid for by the rates. The council sees it as a small price to pay to improve the city environment and keep the streets safe.
I got a call from the police. They phoned into the depot. Could I go and deal with it? I went down to the area and actually I followed the dog most of the way, then managed to put it on a lead. And it was a case of taking it back, putting it in my van, and now I'll take it down to the RSPCA to be impounded.
Portsmouth was one of the first towns in the country to appoint its own dog warden. Now many of the packs that used to roam freely have been dispersed. The tragedy, as Bob Skillicorn admits, is that the more successful he is, the more dogs are going to be destroyed.
The main problem with this is we are now running short of kennels. Well, we've run out of kennels, to be quite honest with you. There's just nowhere to put any stray dogs. All the welfares are jam-packed full, and it's a case of if you want to take a dog in, then some other poor unfortunate animal at the other end may have to be put down to make space for that one to be got in.
It's for this reason that charities like the RSPCA feel they're fighting a losing battle. For every dog captured off the streets, hundreds more are being bred to take their place. It's estimated the dog population is some 6.8 million and growing by the rate of 500,000 a year. In the south, the problem's been compounded by the rapid increase in the human population, which has brought with it an ever-increasing number of pets. None of this would matter if all these dogs ended up with caring, responsible owners, but they don't. Too many dogs are simply dumped when the novelty's worn off or their owners find they can't cope. It's these dogs which end up as strays. But abandoned dogs are only part of the problem. Others may have owners but are allowed to roam the streets.
A stray dog in theory is an unowned or apparently unowned dog running the streets without identification. In reality, probably 90% of the dogs, or even more than that come in here, do have owners. They're simply allowed to roam the streets because maybe they're out at work all day and there's no one to exercise the dog. I think sometimes they are deliberately let loose in the hope that they won't come back. It's just sheer irresponsibility.
It's dogs like this cross collie which become the victims of that irresponsibility. His owner cannot be traced. He has no name. He was picked up off the streets in Southampton shortly before Christmas. The RSPCA has tried to find him a new home, but failed. The dog is now suffering under the stress of being locked up, and the vet here has taken the decision to put him down. This dog's new owner renamed him Lucky, and lucky he certainly is. He also spent several months at the RSPCA shelter in Portsmouth, but Bob Harmon saved him from the prospect of being put to sleep.
It was out of pity that we decided to have the thing, because obviously, we didn't want it to be put down. But like I say, I took a shine to the dog, and really I wouldn't be without him now. How can anyone let a dog like this, if it did belong to someone before we had him, how they can let him, let's say, just go and not care a thing about him, and then him having to end up at the RSPCA? It really is beyond me how people can actually think like that.
Animal charities like the RSPCA know only too well how difficult it is to find responsible owners. It calculates that the failure of dog owners to control their pets adequately costs the nation £76 million a year. The figures represent the expense incurred by looking after strays and the damage or injury that they cause. Properly looked after, dogs can make good pets and loyal companions, but left to their own devices, uncontrolled dogs can be positively dangerous. The standard joke about postmen's encounters with ferocious dogs has grown a bit thin for the men and women delivering letters to this Maidstone estate. Nationally, 5,500 postmen are bitten every year. Here on the Elizabeth Close estate, the danger from stray dogs was considered so great that last July deliveries were suspended indefinitely. Residents now have to make a 15-minute journey to the nearest sorting office to collect their mail. The decision to cancel the service was taken because, according to the local post office spokesman, Tim Mills, too many dangerous stray dogs were being allowed to roam the estate.
We have had numerous complaints from both our postmen and postwomen that whilst delivering to this area, they were always being pestered by dogs, and they all felt that at the time their health was at risk because at some time or other the cleaner or the caretaker in the block of flats actually accompanied them round on delivery armed with a wooden bar to protect them from the dogs. We never know whether there's going to be dogs here or there isn't going to be dogs here, and indeed if you look around now you'll see 3 or 4 dogs roaming around loose. One stray dog is bad enough. 3 or 4 stray dogs is a real hazard. I can tell you during my years as a postman I had been bitten 6 times by 6 different dogs, and I can tell you the 6th one that bit me was no better than the first one that bit me.
The future of the estate is now uncertain and many of the residents are moving out. But whatever happens, Tim Mills, like other postmen, says he won't return until every last stray dog has been removed. But it's not only postmen who are threatened by strays and uncontrolled dogs. On our roads, these animals can cause serious injury and even death. Every year, thousands of dogs, many of them strays, are involved in road accidents. In recent years, the human toll in the south has run into hundreds. Between 1986 and 1988, 40 people were hurt in Dorset, 26 people in Berkshire, 83 in Kent, 65 in Sussex, and 95 in Hampshire. The problems created by strays and uncontrolled dogs are not confined to city streets. In the countryside too, stray dogs can cause untold damage. Sheep worrying is a major source of concern for many farmers. It can prove financially ruinous. According to the National Farmers Union, 10,000 animals are attacked each year, 6,000 of them are sheep. The union's Kent branch claims that attacks in the county are increasing.
Sheep worrying is a very great problem in the rural area, and it's a problem that's getting worse, not better. The carnage that dogs can cause to a flock of sheep has got to be seen to be believed. It's very expensive for the farmer in his losses, and it's not just the loss of the lamb or the damage to the sheep, it's the veterinary costs that are involved.
Margaret Heathcote runs a livestock farm at Blean, near Canterbury in Kent. Like many farmers in the area, she's suffered from several attacks on her sheep in recent months.
There were sheep running with quite a lot of their back legs actually eaten away, and the tendons and sinews were all exposed and damaged. There was quite a lot with holes ripped in their necks with their windpipe exposed, and some of them were lying and just couldn't move. The loss in financial terms to us was probably £800 to £1,000, and then every night for almost a fortnight my son and son-in-laws were sitting out hoping to catch them if they returned.
In total, Margaret Heathcote lost 17 sheep. It's a loss which many farmers can ill afford. Faced with the prospect of continuing attacks, the NFU says many farmers will do as she did and shoot a stray, as the law allows.
The temptation is to get rid of the problem, and if he's got the opportunity to shoot a dog, rest assured he will do so. Bringing a prosecution is a very laborious issue, and quite often doesn't arrive at a settlement which is satisfactory.
The RSPCA, alarmed by the increasing number of strays and the problems they cause, believes the situation is so serious that a system of national controls is needed. Without concerted government action, the RSPCA says the problems will escalate, so it's put forward a package of measures. It wants compulsory registration for all, costing perhaps £10 or more. The revenue from registration would pay for an army of dog wardens to police the legislation and bring owners to book. And finally, a permanent dog identification system would make it easy to trace the owners. One way of doing this has already been introduced in the Irish Republic. By law, electronic microchips must be implanted in the bodies of all guard dogs. A simple scan enables the vet to identify the dog and its owner. It's a system which, though costly, could have wider application in the United Kingdom. But not only has the government failed to introduce stricter controls, it's actually relaxed those we had, and the RSPCA calculates that move has increased the number of strays to 500,000. In the face of strong opposition, the government decided last year to abolish the dog licence, arguing that at 37p it costs more to collect than the revenue it brought in. This decision infuriated many groups who'd hoped the government would bring in more controls.
When the government abolished the dog licence, it left us to kill the dogs, and that's what it has done. It's washed its hands of the responsibility for this escalating problem. The problem was going up and up before the government abolished the dog licence. We argued at the time of that abolition, don't abolish it, upgrade it. The government had a responsibility and an obligation at the time of abolishing the dog licence to introduce a scheme which would prevent and cut the numbers of strays on our streets and therefore the number that are having to be destroyed.
When the bill abolishing the dog licence was debated in the House of Lords, the Environment Secretary was given powers to introduce a registration system, powers which the government has so far refused to use.
The Secretary of State's been asked persistently by MPs of all persuasions, when are you going to do it? And his answer is, I have no intention of so doing. So they've washed their hands of the problem and left us and others to pick up the pieces.
But even the pro-dog lobby is divided on the question of registration. The Kennel Club, which runs the prestigious Crufts Dog Show, argues that a registration fee would penalise responsible dog owners, and in the short term would lead to more strays, as owners abandon their dogs rather than pay up. The club says the RSPCA proposals are impossible to enforce.
We don't know what they're suggesting, how are you going to mark the dogs, what do you do about the dog that has not been marked, when is this going to happen, at what age, and it can hardly happen when the thing is a small puppy. It must therefore be a semi-adult dog, and surely if you're then going to bring in a substantial registration fee, that is the very time when the dogs are going to be tipped out into the streets.
Amid this controversy, we went to find out how a system of tougher controls works in one part of the United Kingdom, Northern Ireland. The law, which was changed here in 1983, allows for the creation of a dog warden service run by local councils. It's paid for by an annual licence fee of £5.
That's fine, Jacqueline. I'll be able to pick up
It's a system which the RSPCA would like to see expanded in England. Information about licensed dogs is stored on computer at councils throughout the province. It enables dog wardens on the road to trace owners and issue fines where necessary. Yolanda Elwood is one of 3 wardens employed in Belfast. On this call-out, a dog has wandered into a woman's garden. Yolanda Elwood will take it into care. She believes the legal controls in Northern Ireland have changed the way owners treat their dogs.
That's great. Thank you very much for phoning us.
People are aware now and getting to be more aware of the legislation, and so are taking care of their animals better. They're not letting them stray and so on.
The purpose of legislation is to ensure that owners are made responsible for their dogs.
Good morning. I have a dog licence, please. Okay.
Once a dog has been licensed, it's fitted with a numbered coloured disc. Its owner can then be traced and fined for allowing it to roam unsupervised or for committing other offences. But those involved with animal welfare in Belfast admit that the new laws are only a first step towards dealing with the problem of unwanted dogs.
And that's an application form for next year.
I have no doubt that registration of animals is a good thing. I have no doubt that the dog warden scheme is a good thing. Our dog wardens here do very good work, not only lifting the stray dogs and bringing them to the shelters, but also dealing with attacking dogs. But I think that any animal welfare society must look beyond the legislation.
Despite the legal powers available in Northern Ireland, thousands of dogs are still put down each year. Animal welfare officers in the province, as in the mainland, believe a complete solution will be found only when dog owners learn to behave more responsibly. Meanwhile, the killing goes on. In simple terms, there are just too many dogs. The long-term problem is how to reduce the numbers. What's required is a massive campaign to stop the present population explosion.
Neutering and spaying is an obvious answer to try and control numbers. There have to be controls. Initially, there has to be control of stray animals that are already on the streets. There have to be controls on the people who already have animals. But in the end, I think we must have controls on the number of animals being bred. If we don't do that, we will never solve the problem.
The RSPCA has launched a pilot scheme of neutering in 2 towns in the north of England to find out how much a more general programme would cost. But it says what's really needed is a government-sponsored campaign. In the absence of any such initiative, and with the government unwilling to bring in legislation, some local authorities are taking their own action. One of the major targets is perhaps the most antisocial of dog habits, the fouling of footpaths and public parks. But it's not only unpleasant, it also represents a major health hazard. Cases of toxocariasis, a disease passed on to humans through dog feces, have been discovered here in the south. The disease is caused when eggs of the roundworms Toxocaricanus are ingested. Small children are most likely to contract it by inadvertently playing in areas affected by dog fowl. The disease can cause partial or even total blindness. Dr. Greg Munton is an eye specialist in Maidstone.
There, like that. Right. For some strange reason, it seems to like the little blood vessels in the retina, right in the central part of the retina, where it has the maximum effect on the clear vision. That central part of the retina is where we read, where we recognise faces, where we do critical fine viewing, and obviously if you have a disturbance there, your sight will be very severely affected. It isn't curable. We have really no treatment that can effectively treat that worm in the retina.
Some local authorities, alerted to the dangers of dog fowl, have introduced local laws to make owners responsible for their dog's mess. Gosport Council in Hampshire is one of 4 authorities which took part in an experimental bylaw scheme in 1985. It was so successful, it's become a permanent control on dog owners.
It asks dog owners to pick up the dog waste from their pets and place it into a receptacle provided by the council. So we have provided bins throughout the borough and a collection service that makes sure those bins are emptied daily. Since '85, when we first started the scheme, taken about 7 or 8 prosecutions that have mostly been successful. And this year we've got around about 7 or 8 further prosecutions awaiting court appearances.
In neighbouring Portsmouth, local vets are developing their own system of identifying dogs. Without a national system imposed by government, the vets hope to get the backing of the local authority. It's based on the car number plate principle, and it's hoped it can be extended to cover other regions.
Basically, what it consists of is tattooing, and the format is that each veterinary surgeon in the area has a letter prefix and is given a number between 1 and 999. This is done under anaesthesia. The best time is normally when young animals are coming in for routine spaying, etc. And that number, with details of the owner, are put on computer. Now, at any one time, any of the rescue organisations or injured animals that go to veterinary surgeons can identify the tattoo and the owner contacted straight away.
But Mr. Womar is only too aware that such a scheme will work in the end only if it has the backing of the law.
Responsible owners are having their dogs tattooed, and it's really the other end of the market, the irresponsible people, the cause in the main of strays, that aren't having it done. I foresee that the only way of getting over the whole problem of stray animals is to make it compulsory by law.
The government's refusal to enact any such law has provoked one of the most controversial campaigns ever mounted by a pressure group. The RSPCA has spent nearly £250,000 on an advertising and poster campaign to win public support and to put pressure on government. It was designed to shock, and it achieved its objectives. The Kennel Club was appalled at what it saw as the insensitivity of the campaign. It wanted the posters banned from Crufts.
We're more concerned about the distasteful aspects of the campaign, which we think will offend more than impress. The picture of a pile of dogs, we don't like it. We felt, particularly at Crufts, which after all is our dog show, that to put it up there was a little bit like putting up pictures of Auschwitz at Miss World.
The people who are truly upset by the situation are those that have to put animals down when they come to work for an animal welfare organisation. They're the people for whom this campaign is truly tasteless, because they're the ones that join the RSPCA to save life and end up taking it, not because an animal is suffering or in pain, but because it simply isn't wanted.
The RSPCA believes it's racing against time, not least because its membership has decided to end the destruction of dogs by the mid-1990s.
But if the government are going to continue to ignore us, well then, we will expose them and politicians in local authorities to the true horror of this and say to them, you do it. You employ civil servants to kill these animals. You employ people in local government to kill these animals on the rates and on the taxes. I suspect at that point, if Mr. Ridley isn't prepared to listen to reason and to argument and to public opinion and to parliamentary opinion, then if he's got to have the obligation of putting the needle into the dog's paw and watching it die, maybe that in the end is the only way to make him see sense.
Time is running out for the cross collie. Healthy though he is, he's not adapted well to being cooped up in kennels. The time has come to end his misery.
Many of the dogs that come in will not adapt to kennel life for long periods of time, and then become kennel stressed. They start having problems. We take time to assess this, the kennel maids do it, but I can see a time coming, very shortly in fact, when we won't have that choice, where animals won't be put down for veterinary or medical reasons. They will simply be coming in here, serving the 7 or 8 days, and then being destroyed because there is simply no more room, and they will be perfectly fit and healthy animals. And that's a situation that we have avoided and don't think we can much longer. It's a situation we are dreading.
While legislation may go some way towards solving the nation's stray dog problem, it's clear that nothing short of a radical change in attitude by the British public will result in fewer deaths. In the meantime, for thousands of strays and unwanted dogs, any solution will come too late.